Well, thank you all for being here. So it's my great pleasure to have our dear friend and servant leader, Lindsay Bauer, here. It's impossible to say too much about what Lindsay has done for our community, really helping the FACC get onto a completely solid foundation. I read from her what she sent in, a 60% increase in show attendance. Mm-hmm. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. Like, really, when you think about it, how many towns of 10,000 have a facility like that? Answer, almost none. But we have it. And it's easy to take things like that for granted, that it's there, and it takes a huge amount of work, a huge amount of dedication, a huge amount of intelligence, a huge amount of emotional intelligence to be able to connect with the community and understand what the community really wants and needs. And so it's come a long ways. I was on the board back in the day, and I remember this was a great day when we had something happening at the facility every day in a given month. That was a pretty big deal. Now there's many things happening every day. So Lindsay, I asked Lindsay to come here because part of Traction Thursdays is to think about what is it in our community that makes our community so vibrant and successful, and what can we do, to participate more in those institutions and to hear more of the backstory about what it takes to make that institution what it is. So Lindsay, thank you very much for being here.
I appreciate everything that you just said.
Whoa.
I really do appreciate deeply being invited to speak to an entrepreneur conversation. Because for one thing, I think every artist is an entrepreneur, whether they think so or not. Every artist is an entrepreneur. The arts are a business. They are an industry. This is an economic driver. And I think so often we think of art and culture as the nice things that you do when you don't feel like doing something else, or when you're off work, and we don't think of it as the multi-billion-dollar industry that it is in this country, the multi-million-dollar industry that it is here in Iowa, 46,000 jobs here in Iowa. 46,000 jobs are full-time related to arts and culture fields. And when I so often, and I apologize because I am going to soapbox, but just for a couple of minutes, I promise everything after this will be feel good and artsy. But for a second, I'm going to soapbox because I hear so many conversations where they say you need your creatives in the room to idea generate, and then you bring in somebody who does spreadsheets. And I'm sorry, creatives spreadsheet too. And there is nothing about art that is not also budget related and generating interest, and that is a business. The communication with an audience that wants to reward you for that communication, that is a product, that is a business. And I know that artists don't like to talk like that, and audiences don't like to talk like that, but that's really, it's a business. We're entrepreneurs. And when we talk about organizations like the FACC or Fairfield Arts and Convention Center, for those who don't have acronyms as part of their first language, this is something that, imagine what Fairfield would look like without that center. There are a lot of people who think, well, I wasn't really into anything they had in their season this year, and I don't go to movies, and I'm not interested. Those folks are still reaping the benefits of the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center. Because you talk to any major employer here in town, and what is their biggest challenge? Getting people to work for them, and attracting high-level talent, keeping the talent that they've already cultivated. And those folks are looking for something to do. They want arts programs for their kids. They want something that keeps them here in town in the evenings, on the weekends. You want better health care? Invest in the arts. doctors are difficult to attract to rural communities. All of these amenities that we depend on, and we sort of blame our elected officials for the quality or lack thereof. I mean, our elected officials take a lot of the responsibility for that, but really, it's your arts and culture community that's driving those amenities forward and making sure that they survive, making sure that they stay strong. You want better roads, invest in the arts. You want better parks, invest in the arts. Because all of this is interconnected. And folks who feel like they want to be in a community, spend money in that community, pay taxes in that community, work in that community. This doesn't happen unless the community has something to be proud of. And I'm always so fascinated in these conversations when the arts are sort of set on the sidelines as this special frippery, it's the frosting on the cake, but honestly, who wants to eat cake without frosting anyway? That's just bread.
Yeah, really.
Like, come on. Like, let's be real. But that they're not invited into, it's very much an other, right? We other the arts a lot, and we don't remember that they're an essential part of a community's infrastructure and the way that a community can grow. And I think for those of you who do a lot of traveling across rural communities, certainly across the state of Iowa, Penny, I know you're gonna notice this. You look at the small towns that are thriving, they 100% of the time they have an arts scene. 100% of the time. The ones that don't thrive. And there's nothing more devastating to a community than when their school closes, because they don't have the population to maintain their elementary school, their middle school, their high school, whatever it might be, and they've got to pay to bus those students to a different community. Watch, because then the businesses close, the factories leave, and it becomes a bedroom community. The arts are the anchor that brings a community its strength, its longevity, and its resilience. And I'm going to talk about arts as an economic driver, like I wasn't already.
She said, I don't think I'll have much to say. Why don't you come up here? I knew that was baloney, but anyway, go right ahead.
So, warning, I'm going to talk about arts as an economic driver. Arts are an economic driver, but they are also a driver of health in your community. As we look across our landscape, we notice the mental health crisis that we're experiencing, not just in Iowa and not just in our rural communities, but across the country. We need these spaces that are just joyful. And we keep talking about this. We talk about this as a staff at Fairfield Arts and Convention Center all the time, that there is nothing wrong with joy. Yes, there is a place for art that challenges and conversations that are difficult, conversations that bring two viewpoints together and give them space to duke it out in a friendly and kind way. But there is also space for art that just feels nice. And for heaven's sake, what is wrong with feeling nice? And being able to lay aside whatever it was that you had in your day, come together with 500 other people that you know, that you don't know, and have a moment that you cannot have any other way. You cannot get that at home on Netflix. You cannot get it on Spotify. You have it in a room full of hundreds of other people, and you have it in this deeply communal, community way. And I think when we talk about the strength of our rural communities in Iowa, and Iowa's not just farmland, we have businesses here too. Whenever I go to Chicago or I go to arts conferences, everyone asks me if I live on a farm. No. But if I did, I'd be proud of it. I'd be all right. But we have these landscapes. Our rural communities in Iowa are what make our metros succeed. We are the ones carrying the burden. We are the ones supporting the rest of the state. And in a rural community, arts and connection and culture are more important than they are in the metro. Now, if you drive down to Iowa City, they've got if you drive up to Iowa City, they've got so much culture going on. Their Ped Mall, you walk through there, there's live music, there's art galleries, there's maker spaces, there's all this going on. There's the Hansher, there's the Stanley, is that right? The Stanley Art Museum on campus,
yes,
is that right?
I think so.
You know, there's all this going on. That's wonderful. That's important. We should be proud that this state supports that. But when you drive to a rural community and they have one art center, or if they're like Fairfield, they have like 50. You look, what happens when those close in that town? That town dies. It happens every time. And so what we need to be talking about, not just as a community amongst ourselves, celebrating the strength of these rural communities that are breaking ground in so many wonderful ways, like Fairfield is. Fairfield is a music town. Fairfield is a film town. Fairfield is an art town. Fairfield is a conversation town. Fairfield is a poetry town. Fairfield is all of these things. Fairfield is a weird town.
Deliciously weird, right?
Deliciously weird. It is a weird place. But we also need to be talking to our lawmakers and our decision makers, our city councils, our county boards of supervisors, our elected officials. We need to be talking to these folks to remind them we can help them solve their problems. What's in Iowa's current strategic plan? It's job creation and it's tourism. What did I just say? The arts do every time. Now, here's something that I'm proud about at Fairfield Arts and Convention Center, and that is that most small towns of 10,000 people with a major art center like ours, we run on a budget of about $1.2 million a year. We have a staff of 15 to 20, depending on the season. A major art center like ours, those towns, their audience comes from out of town. They're drawing from a huge circle, and that's wonderful, and I think that's so important, and Fairfield Arts and Convention Center does that as well. But I'm very proud to say 25% of our audience comes from out of town, but that means 75% doesn't. We serve Fairfield. We are Fairfield's Arts and Convention Center, and we have always been from day one. I'm also proud to say when you look at our programming, we do 12 to 16 ticketed events a year with generally 5 to 15 free live arts events as well. And then we have movies almost every night that we don't have a live show. There's something going on in the theater. I've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks with folks. We don't have a dark day in the theater from early May until mid-August. We are packed. We are being useful. We are used by the community. We are serving the community. If you look at other art centers in towns our size, they do 6 shows a year. They do 6 shows a year. Losers. I'm just kidding. Wonderful people who are doing fantastic work, who are well supported and well valued in their communities. But Fairfield is different, and that is something to be very, very proud of, and it is something to champion and shout about. We should be talking about it when we talk to folks who aren't from here, but more importantly, we should be talking about it when we're talking to folks who are from here. Yes. No place is the middle of nowhere. And when we talk about ourselves, when rural communities talk about ourselves as if we don't matter, we are lying. We're lying because the entire country depends on us and our ideas, our infrastructure, our economies. The decisions of the nations are made in the small towns. Politicians don't court the vote in cities. Have you ever noticed that? We know how the cities vote. It's not important. We want the small town vote. Ideas in a small town matter. So let's create a space that makes ideas, because what problem can we not solve? In a rural community, come on, we have fewer resources, we have fewer people, we have bigger issues that we're facing, we have the same kind of problems that a metro area, drug use, homelessness, unhoused populations, we have all that, mental health, we have all that, economic pressures, we have all that in the small towns, and we only have a handful of folks working on them. So let's make a space that breeds genius. Let's build communities that know how to work for each other. Let's make Fairfield the example for the rest of the nation. Because, come on, what problem can we not, this town, what problem can we not solve? I dare you. Bob?
Challenge. Is there any doubt why the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center is thriving? Phyllis, you had your hand up.
Yes,
Yeah,
I have a
here,
question.
here.
Since I'm a marketer, I'm very aware of marketing going on.
Here.
Oh, sorry, I always forget. So because I'm a marketer and an entrepreneur, I'm very aware of the marketing going on and things. And your voice right there is not the voice I see being marketed for the convention center, whereas I think it would do a good if it was. So that kind of energy and that kind of branding for small town arts on to the marketing that you're doing for the convention center would do you really, really, really well. But also, I don't know, I know Terry does a lot of work with this with the tourism board, but as an entrepreneur, I'm wondering, what are the things you're doing for marketing to get people from out of town into the facility?
So I mentioned before we have a staff of 15 to 20, depending on the season. I am the sole marketer, the sole programmer, and the sole fundraiser. I handle that all myself. It's still Facebook in this area. Our best ROI still comes from Meta. And that's okay. We do a lot of TV, we do a lot of radio, we do IPR, things like that. But our best marketing still comes from Meta, social media.
No magazines and newspapers or radio?
Rural Iowa? The question was any magazines or newspapers or things like that. We also do invest in print media, especially in Fairfield. That still is important. And I think it's also important as an institution for us to support local news, local newspaper, things like that. I think that's a responsibility that we have to make sure that is incumbent. But I'm sure the rest of you are going to find a lot of that as well. Our biggest ROI is Facebook, and we do a lot of very targeted stuff when we're promoting events. Now, when we're promoting our brands, we spend a couple of times a year doing this. We have, maybe 3 or 4 conversations like this that we'll put out online, or we'll send letters to our supporters, email. I don't do a lot of letters, but email. And we will have conversations like this. If you religiously follow city council meetings, you will hear me talk like this quite a bit. Yep. So that's where that is. But I also have to say that I am not only representing Fairfield Arts and Convention Center in this conversation, I am also the current president of the Iowa Cultural Coalition, which is the statewide arts and culture advocacy board. We are a completely all volunteer-run arts and culture advocacy organization. We help give Iowans the tools that they need to advocate for themselves. We don't have a lobbyist. We are a communications organization, right? We provide the information so that Iowans know what kinds of conversations they can have for themselves to promote their own communities and the success of their own infrastructure.
I just love to see that fire and enthusiasm in more than marketing. I know a lot of marketers tend to play it safe, and I just wish people would kind of go the opposite for a while to make a bigger splash.
Keep paying attention.
Okay.
That's, Bill.
I've worked with some groups in the past where we wanted to bring something into the convention center, but the numbers didn't work because we couldn't find the housing, we couldn't find the motels, and this people coming in from the outside that have to stay over at least for a dinner or overnight represent some real volume of money into the community. And that seems, you're proudly saying 75% are from here, and that's great. But why not 50-50?
Have a conversation in Fairfield, and no one will agree with you. If I had said half of our audience comes from outside of Fairfield, somebody in here in this room would have said, well, how come you don't serve Fairfield? But I want to get back to what you're actually asking and what you're actually saying, which I think has more to do with our role in tourism and tourism's role in supporting a community. And I do think that this is a huge issue that often the residents in a community don't actually want tourism. They don't get the actual community, residents don't get excited about tourism the way that your tourism director does, or your lawmakers often are. And part of that, I think, is because we can't see how it supports us. It's very difficult to make the case that somebody from out of town isn't in your way. They are paving the way for you. And also I think that there's a natural disinclination for us to look at people and see dollar signs. We want to look at humans and see humans. We want to see souls and ideas and conversation and histories and stories and things like that, right? But just for funsies, let's look at people and see dollar signs. If they're not from here, and they're bringing their jobs, their money that they earned in their jobs in their communities that we didn't have to pay for, and their houses and their cars and their stuff, and we don't have to support them once they leave, and they come and they're going to buy a ticket at the convention center, they're going to get coffee at Cafe Paradiso, they're going to get a drink over at La Noche or wherever, what have you, and they're going to have dinner in town, they're going to buy gas on their way out, or as you say, are they going to stay in town? They're going to get a room? And this won't be the first time that you guys have heard this. Yes, please build another hotel here in Fairfield. Please give us more rooms, because my goodness, we will use them. We will use the rooms. We will fill the rooms. And I think that is a really important conversation for us to have. But when we think of those folks, that once they leave, we do not have to pay for their health care. We do not need to support anything about those people. They're just coming with their purses and their wallets, leaving their purses and their wallets here, and then going back home. Super great. So let's think a little bit in terms of that. All right, you hate everything that the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center programs. You've never been to a single concert at Fairfield Muse. You have always hated spoken word poetry. You never go to Thirsty Word. This is just it's not your thing. You don't support whatever. You love Netflix and Spotify. That's your thing. That's your jam. Cool. I love you. That's just fine. But support the things that support you. Tourists who come here and look at what we have and spend their dollars here also move here. And I know that everyone's all like, not in my backyard and all that. They're not going to move into your backyard. But if they do move here and they increase your tax base and they are working in your major employers, their kids are in your schools, they're doing they're supporting your school district, all of those things. They're buying their groceries here. They're buying all of that. It's all an ecosystem that is deeply connected. Look what kind of doctors we can get now. Because even Netflix folks go to the doctor. All of this, we really need to look at it as if we are all dependent on one another, and the arts really are the anchor in a community.
So Bob, more to Bill's question, what is the overnight accommodation picture in Fairfield now? Is it getting better? Is it okay? Could it be a lot better? Not just hotels, but bed and breakfast, Airbnbs, all of that. How much of an overnight room accommodation does Fairfield have, just for one night, let's say, on average?
Someone might have more data. I don't have data. I bet we could get that from CVB. In fact, that would be a good thing to have a whole conversation about what it is that we need, what us entrepreneurs can actually do. I do know that, I feel like I know, that if we built hotel rooms, they would fill up. And really part of what we're doing with the Beautification Commission and that kind of thing is to do some leading indicator stuff. You know, as I have mentioned, my little thing is the weeds, right? But I've challenged people saying, if people come and you've got hair growing out of your sidewalks, what are they going to assume? And if everything looks pristine and beautiful, like the group that came in is thinking about bringing a 100-unit apartment complex in, Rachel will know more about that. But Deborah Williamson was there at the meeting, and they told her that they have never seen a community with more beautiful flowers. And, you know, the idea that this 9-block area, when we get the weeds vanquished, and we have literally pulled out tons of sand and stuff out of the gutters. So when we de-weed a sidewalk and a street, we also sweep everything out of the gutters. And there's been giant piles that Joe takes away and wherever he takes them away to. So what we can do, one of the reasons I did that is it needed to be done, right? Like it really, really needed to be done. But it's also a metaphor for one person with an idea. Hey, why don't we have no weeds in a 9-block area? And then all of a sudden other people go, well, I think that's a good idea, I'll come. So Anna's husband Avi shows up, and a couple weekends ago we had 9 of us put 37 person hours into cleaning up. It begins to be a contagion. Then when we vanquish the weeds and we have beautiful streets, and we have a program that I am personally dedicated to, that we have a cadre of people, every single week, every crosswalk in downtown is swept. And sidewalks are swept. And then we have a program for all of the people who have businesses, and we have a little competition as to who can have the most beautiful stretch of sidewalk in front of their business. Go look at the rug. Maybe the wind has blown stuff in, but go look at the rug in front of the what was it, Verizon, whatever, the cell company. It's a wind tunnel, right? And so I was cleaning that side of the thing, all this junk on the thing. It literally took me 5 minutes with a broom to sweep that thing down, and it's beautiful. So, Phyllis, you're going to be very happy that we're going to have that meeting that you suggested, and we're going to enlist everyone to do that. So, as a metaphor, that's just weeds. I mean, that's not like really hard. It's not intellectually difficult. It's pretty basic. If, to Lindsay's point and to other people's point, if we can do that, what else can we do? And what I challenged the city council with, they said, well, this top 7 thing, what are we going to get out of it? I said, well, with all due respect, I don't know whether that's the right question. I think the right question is, what are we going to make of it? What are we going to make of that massive potential reputational uplift? And so this is, as Lindsay pointed out, these are all related, aren't they? Everything is stitched together and related to the other. And when you improve one thing, you drag the whole system in a progressive fashion. So I would challenge everyone, what are the things that you're going to take on? What do you want to contribute to this mix? So Phyllis next, but Guy first. Oh, here. Lindsay, have hers. Here, Guy, and then you, Phyllis.
No problem.
It's very inspiring to hear you talk about the center. It really is a miracle. And
Can you speak up a little bit?
is it live? Yeah. I benefited from the center early, I think in 2008 and 2009. I brought Sacred Music Star here. Snellham Carr was many people still remember that event. And they told me that they wouldn't have come if it wasn't for the center. It was when I showed them the pictures and the quality of the center, they came, and we still have connection with them there. Also, I'm a huge fan of Cinema Fairfield. I think that's just been a huge asset to the community. I've actually cut off my Netflix and all those things, and I really enjoy going out there and being there in person. and I'm happy to offer help to get the word out more on the movies. I do run into people in town and they don't know about the movies that are going on. I think maybe I imagine you're stretched. I think you said you do all the marketing, so there's only one of you. But maybe a poster sandwich board at everybody's. I think the market, the people that go. I see a lot of the people that go to the cinema. Everybody's is quite a surprising exposure. So I do a lot of events. And I have a show right now, a photography show with the Fairfield Arts Association in the small hallway gallery there. And that's just an incredible benefit and asset. And I appreciate all the galleries in town, but to be in the convention center is just amazing because of the traffic, the amount of people that come through, and it's open all the time. And we had an event yesterday and people came and ate Ethiopian food and they saw the art. And so I just confer with everything you say that the arts are what attract all the other wealth in the community. It's really, really necessary. So I applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, 45,000 visits last year. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for something that's right downtown, that anchors this community in a really big way.
In the middle of August, there's a art and book fair at the convention center, and I don't know if everybody knows about that, but you should, if you're an art or book author kind of person, you should have a booth there or buddy up with somebody and have a booth. But they're really marketing it to a local community. So are there any partnerships that you do with like events? Do you do marketing of events, or are they all in charge of their own marketing?
We put all of our private partners in charge of their own marketing. I have found that when I have attempted to partner alongside, that it's not very effective because our audience is very different, and B, I get blamed a lot for a lot of things, and so we've just said, like, look, you know your product, you know your target audience better than anybody. You market your own stuff. What I do tend to offer is, if you have a Facebook post you want me to share, email me, send me a link to the post, and I'll share it on our page. Here's our friends XYZ doing XYZ. And that's about the extent that I will offer. We have so many of our own events that it's really important for me that I'm respecting the responsibility that it is to be a donor-funded organization. About 45% of our budget comes from individual donors, grants, and corporate sponsorship. I mean, that's a huge deal, and they are donating to support this program. It's a deep responsibility that I take very seriously, that makes that stays there, that their intentions are honored. And so we're really very careful with our messaging and how diluted we allow it to be, if that makes sense.
Hi, I wanted to just comment as someone who's from Fairfield but has been basically living out of town for like 20 years, but I come regularly. And it's an interesting dynamic of being like half local, half tourist. And I just wanted to mention a few things that I'm not sure everyone's aware of. Like there's something about Fairfield where everything's closed on Saturday. Like I'm trying to find some food and I go to the convention center, I'm like, why is it always locked on the weekend? Every other tourist town, it's like the weekend is when they're open and like everything happens on the weekend and they recover during the week. But somehow in Fairfield it's of course the opposite. But so I'm just wondering if there's a way to have, even around the lunchtime, there's a market there, people are coming, they're walking right by, they try to go in and it's locked. So the feeling is this place isn't open, there's not much going on. Even though there's a bunch of signs, and that's the kind of perception that I get. The other thing I'll second Guy's comment that Cinema Fairfield I didn't realize is like basically movies. Like I've seen it in the source here and there, but like I think that could be really played up as like, here's the movie night for the community. Yeah. And I just wanted to second this thing of of Bob with the weeds. Like I've been part of that team, but except I can't make it on that day, but I come separately. And I do feel like every tourist town that I've seen, is immaculate. And that's why people go the same way that you want to go to a hotel that's really clean. You don't want to go and be in someone else's like old, dirty kind of vibe. And so as soon as everyone puts that attention in, they get to be the benefits of it themselves, the beneficiary. Like they get to enjoy that beautiful space all the time, and then the tourists get it for the 2-3 days that they come. So I think it's an attitude shift, and I think it's really important what you're saying, that kind of trickles through the community, that attitude, because coming from out of town, there's like really beautiful spaces, and then there's other spaces where you're like, does no one pay attention to their environment? And so I think that that's where the confluence of local and tourists helps to be coming together, where they can benefit from each other's input. It's like when you have guests, you make your house nice, and then you get to benefit from it. So I want to just thank you for all your input.
I am happy to be open 7 days a week as soon as you are happy to fund it. Our staff gets paid, and our staff gets paid a living wage. I'm very passionate about that folks should be able to pay their rent even if they work in the arts. And so no one on my team makes less than, I think no one on my team makes less than $16 an hour. And so when we are open, it means that there's something to do there, or we're open for business hours because we work with a lot of different clients. We are rarely open all day on a Saturday. We are usually open for a half day on Sunday because we have a standing rental there. A church rents the space on Sunday mornings. That's always a conversation of how available can you make this resource for free? And that's, and when folks come and they want to rent a room or they want to rent the theater or things like that, we will work with everybody, and we try to slice it down as deep as we can get those prices. But you may recall earlier in this conversation, I said the arts is a business. I have to pay my people, and I have to make sure that I'm being responsible with donor funds. I have a responsibility to make sure that this organization succeeds forever, because it is too important to fail. And with that in mind, it does mean that occasionally I make people really disappointed and really unhappy and angry with us and say that we don't support the community or we don't support the arts. We do, but it costs money to do this work. It just does. It costs money. It costs money to maintain the building. It costs money to heat and cool the building. It costs money to keep those HVAC systems working. And our staff are some of the best people on this planet, and we support them as much as it is possible for us to do.
Great. Well, Anna, last question or last comment.
Yeah, I want to tell that my husband and we moved to Fairfield at the end of April, and we moved in town at Tuesday, and at Saturday, in 4 days, I went to art class here in Fairfield Art Association. It was printmaking class, 5 series, and it really gave me a lot of, support, connection, and like see people, do something with people. And yesterday I brought 5 my artworks for exhibitions that will start at August 1st in Convention Center, and I super appreciate this option. It's really like you're doing a great job, and I can hear that, like, of course it's place to grow, and I only want to tell that it's really, for me, like in my personal level, it's like, it was super important, like right after we landed, have this kind of connection, feel this appreciation, feel that like, oh my gosh, how much possible here. And I would love support, art, business here, and yeah, so appreciate what you're doing.
That's one thing I will not take credit for. I mean, you can give it to me, but Susan Kessel and what she has built with Fairfield Art Association, I mean, this woman is half the size of all of us in this room, and yet does triple the amount of impact in this community. What she has built with Fairfield Art Association, and the way that she and her board curate this. I don't curate any of the art. I can't take credit for that. It is always wonderful and perfect, and she does it. That's her. All I do is show up and say, "Oh, you changed the exhibit. Oh, I love it," and provide the space for them to do it. But that's the kind of town this is when we have organizations that can cross partner like that, when we are all only as strong as our partnerships, as our collaboration, as we sit here in collab. Like this is a really Fairfieldian thing, I think, and I think that we can perpetuate that.
Well, okay. So one final comment. If anyone wants to do a deep dive into the theory of how art builds a community and the community builds art, just look up Richard Florida on YouTube. And there's any number of YouTubes, but something that I think people may not be aware of is when we were doing the 2003 Economic Development Plan, Richard Florida was very ascendant in people's thinking because he made the point and backed up with data, as Lindsay was pointing out, that when a community welcomes artists and fosters artists, they bring artists in. But artists aren't the only creative people, right? Entrepreneurs are creative. There's all kinds of creative people. Well, when a community starts attracting a cadre of creative people in by promoting the arts, it attracts other creative people who then bring that flavor of creativity in. And he has the receipts that shows that, cities and regions and even places within cities that really do a good job promoting the arts tend to thrive economically. So anyway, that's some homework you can do and a little bit of history.
Also, the Iowa Cultural Coalition website has tons of really, really good information on this. We just completed the 2025 Create in Iowa report, which gives specific statistics and examples of how arts work in communities of all different sizes, and specific to Iowa about what it does to the Iowa GDP. So do visit Iowa Cultural Coalition, look at all their stuff, it's great.
One final question for you, Lindsay. What can we do for you? What if you had a magic wand, which I'm sure you do, and you could use it, what do you need from us? What would you need from the community? What would be helpful for us to provide to you?
As a nonprofit leader, no one has ever asked me that question. Usually,
that's why I asked it.
People are saying, "What is it that you want?" Can I just be really transparent and just really super honest?
We can look right at my eye.
Okay. Because what I actually really want, and what I really feel like I need as an arts leader, as a business leader, as a nonprofit leader, is more love. I know that sounds totally lame and hippie, but
it doesn't, because really, when you are in that position, you cannot please everybody all the time, no
well,
matter what you do.
Yes, but I mean, like, community wide, like from person to person, and the arts don't work in communities where there is no love. Economics don't work in communities where there is no love. Health doesn't work in communities where there is no love. And I'm not saying that Fairfield is a community where there is no love, but I think that arts make it possible to love more easily. I think we love better when we are joyful, and I think communities that love well accidentally succeed. They accidentally support everything that is good about their communities. And I know I just made all this businessy economics, okay, and now I'm ruining it. I know I'm ruining. I've got a representative
This
from
is the
Senator
real stuff.
Grassley
This
in
is
here,
the real
and
stuff.
I've just made myself look like a totally artsy fartsy hippie. But but honestly, the economics of a community that loves well, let's be in conversation. Let's offer, yes, advice and support and criticism, but let's also make space for each other to grow and to thrive and to explore and to stumble and to be embarrassed. Like, what if we could be embarrassed in front of each other as a community and just be like, well, that didn't work. Let's do it differently next time, and let's and have that not be the thing that we talk about for decades. What if it's, oh yeah, what I love about this organization is they did this thing, it didn't work, but what I love about it is look at what they made out of it. And what if we celebrated each other that way? I mean, we could do that. We could be that kind of entrepreneurial. Like, what is more entrepreneurial than messing up and and trying again?
Wow.
Bob, I just sent you a bunch of text messages. I agree with everything you just said there.
Well, gosh, what else can be said? I just want all of us to send right now. Send waves of love to Lindsay, waves and waves of love to Lindsay and her staff. And let's keep the party going, right? Every time we catch her doing something right, we say, Lindsay, that was so great. That is so wonderful. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Lindsay. What a jewel you are for all of us. And thank you all for coming. And next week, Jasia, Danny's wife, is going to be here talking about Grateful Bear. And what she's doing entrepreneurially, what they're doing as a home center, and many more good things to come. So thank you all, and we'll call this a wrap.